We're 2 rounds into the US Open, and so much has happened in this short 4-day span. The story of the tournament, of course, is Serena Williams, who continues her farewell run after an outstanding upset win over world number 2 Ajla Tomljanovic. I'll talk a bit more about that later, but for now, let's actually focus a bit more on the doubles. Yes, doubles was the big blockbuster ticket on all the short courts Thursday, the biggest draw being Venus and Serena pairing up one last time. The sisters played against veteran doubles player Lucie Hradecka and 17-year-old Noskova. The Czech pairing took the match 7-6, 6-4. But this match was definitely on the sisters' racket. The arena had frequent breakpoint opportunities throughout the opener, including 2 set points, but Venus just wasn't solid enough on her returns. Then the sisters went up 5-3 in the tiebreaker, but literally Venus made 3 mistakes in a row, which contributed to the first set L. In the second set, Venus and Serena quickly went down a double break, and at that point I was like, okay, let's take the rest of this match so Serena can get some rest for singles. They kept fighting though, and eventually got back on serve, but were ultimately broken to lose the match. This was definitely a disappointing result because Venus and Serena without a doubt should have won this match. The real issue was that Venus and Serena never really played well at the same time. Serena carried heavily in the first set, which was surprising because Venus is typically the stronger doubles player. The elder sister started off very flat and just wasn't moving well at all. The ground strokes were also an issue as Venus wasn't hitting her cross-court spots well enough, which gave the Czech pair easy pickings up there at the net. Then in the second set, Serena lost her mojo and started missing more of those routine volleys. Venus stepped up her play from the ground as well, but it just wasn't enough in the end. This doubles was a bit of a snooze fest, unfortunately, as the level wasn't that high throughout. The points were fairly short and there were a lot of unforced errors. The crowd wanted to get involved, but they didn't have much to work with at times. Serena wasn't going all out on her serve and movement, which I feel was smart because she needs to protect her arm for singles. That's why I'm not that mad about the loss, because Serena's at the point where she is more vulnerable to injury, a lot more vulnerable to injury. We don't need another situation like the 2018 French Open where she injures herself in doubles, which ultimately harms her singles bid. Once again, I am disappointed that the sisters couldn't get one last win on their belt, but they've accomplished more than enough throughout their entire storied doubles career. It's been a great ride, 14 slam doubles titles and 0 slam finals lost. Incredible. Now another American pair unfortunately bit the dust, and that's second-seeded Coco Gauff and Pegula. The two lost to the pairing of Leylah Fernandez and Daria Saville, who took it 3-6, 7-5, 7-6. For much of this match, Gauff and Pegula were fighting back from behind, even saving a match point late in the third. Really though, them not cashing in on their break chances did them in, but there was an incident in the third set tiebreaker that definitely changed the course of the match. Down 5-7, Gauff and Pegula were in midst of a rally, which they really ended up winning, but a plastic bag flew out on the court. Daria Saville called for a let and the umpire agreed, making them replay the point. Coco and Jessie did not see the piece of plastic dwindle down behind them, so they were livid with the umpire's call.
Right before Coco was putting that last ball away.
I definitely understand why Jessie and Coco were so upset because that was their point. But a let is a let, and Saville was smart enough to call it when she did. Saville took to Twitter to respond to the backlash she faced, saying that she saw the tissue or whatever flying and waited for the umpire to call a let, but she decided to take matters into her own hands and call the let herself. I don't think she was trying to do any type of gamesmanship there, honestly, and it is unfortunate that the match had to end that way, but we move. The Americans were definitely rattled after the whole ordeal as they didn't win another point. Coco will be disappointed, especially with this loss, as she was defending the finals points from last year. She'll also now lose her #1 doubles ranking. On the bright side though, Gauff and Pegula are still very much alive in the singles, unlike Fernandez and Saville. Coco Gauff next placed Madison Keys, which is one of the many big blockbuster third round matches on the women's side. Both Coco and Maddie had to scrap their ways to victory in round 2, as Gauff saved 2 set points against Elena Gabriela Rus to advance. Meanwhile, Keys outlasted the big hitting Camila Giorgi, recovering from a 5-2 deficit in the decider to stay alive. Coco and Madison will be an intriguing matchup because there's that dynamic of Gauff being the steadier player, while Keys has greater firepower and can do more damage. I think Madison will definitely look to exploit Gauff's weaker forehand, as that shot's still been a bit off for the 18-year-old this fortnight. Despite being the lower ranked opponent, I think Keys will be the favorite, as she's been the better player to me thus far in the Open. Also, Maddie outlasted Coco in their Adelaide match earlier this season, and I do feel like we're going to have the same result here. However, like she did with Sloane, Coco could very well learn from that match and come out determined for revenge. Regardless of who wins this one, they'd be a pretty decent favorite to make the quarters, as unseeded Rebecca Marino and Shuai Zhang loom next. Now, rivaling Keys Gauff for the most anticipated women's match is Cincy champion Caroline Garcia, taking on 2019 winner Bianca Andreescu. Garcia is obviously in good form right now, but so is Bibi, who dominated Beatriz Haddad Maia 2 and 4. I expect this to be an all-out dogfight, and we're definitely on match of the year watch with this one. Garcia will be the slight favorite based on match toughness and fitness, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Bibi took another seeded scalp. The winner of this match will also be a big favorite to make the quarters, as Sakura is out and Risk and Wong don't have that same level I feel to go further. Ons Jabeur's section looks relatively intact, though she has a tough test next in Shelby Rogers. Meanwhile, Veronika Kudermetova will be the big favorite to make the second week, playing unseeded Dama Gauff. In the bottommost section, there are no seeds remaining, but the biggest star is still alive as Serena Williams takes on Aussie Ajla Tomljanovic. I first have to give Serena props on her incredible second round victory over world number 2 Anett Kontaveit. Anett has struggled for much of the season, but she came out and actually played like the world number 2 on Wednesday night, serving phenomenally while also blasting away from the ground. However, she wasn't able to sustain her level high enough towards the end, while Serena was able to raise it that higher notch. The way she wrote off those last 6 points of the match was vintage Serena, and I couldn't have been prouder. I've been most impressed with how Serena's handled the occasion of this being her final tournament. She doesn't look stressed or tense at all, rather relaxed, which is unlike what we saw earlier this summer. She did say that after the match, for the first time since her debut, she feels like she has no target on her back and that she's already won. I was afraid that this farewell tournament would be bad for her nerves, but it's actually worked wonders. A huge factor here too have been the crowd, who've been behind Serena every last point. This is probably the loudest and one-sided tennis crowd ever for an individual setting, and it's 100% deserved and justified. Throughout Serena's career, she's undergone a lot of prejudice and discrimination by American crowds themselves. We can't forget about Indian Wells 2021. Then when Serena was going for the calendar slam back in 2015, she didn't get nearly the amount of crowd support that she should have. These crowd cheers for one last ride are fully justified, and they need to keep shouting from the heavens for this great champion. Now, Kontaveit did leave her press conference in tears, and many people blame the crowd for her distress. While they were a lot, the Ashe crowd wasn't disrespectful towards Anett. The cheering of double faults wasn't the best, but all their energy went into cheering on Serena to the win. The crowd will be an important factor in this next match with Tomljanovic, where Serena will be a more comfortable favorite. While Tomljanovic isn't as highly ranked as Anett, she does have some skill and a lot of grit. In her latest match with Rodina, the Aussie, who made the women in quarterfinals back-to-back years, came back from 5-3 down in the third and saved off multiple game and break points against her to seal victory. Ajla also loves playing on these big stages, but she does tend to choke away matches too. I think Serena will come through this match, but not as comfortably as many people believe. Moving up to the top of the women's draw, Iga Swiatek looks to be in fine form after her dominating straight sets win over Sloane Stephens. She'll be happy with how her draw has opened up, but will still need to beware of China's Xinwen Zhang, who outlasted Yelena Ostapenko in round 1. Garbine Muguruza and Petra Kvitova will play for a spot in the third round, as the Spaniard will look to win 3 matches in a row for the first time this whole season. The winner of that one likely gets Jessica Pegula. By the way, shout out to Yuan who came through qualifying. She's a part of history too, as this marks the first time that 4 Chinese women are in the 3rd round at a slam in the Open era. 3-time finalist Victoria Azarenka progressed to the 3rd round after picking up a solid win over Marta Kostyuk. There was a little bit of tension in that one because of course Vika's home country Belarus is partly responsible for the invasion of Kostyuk's Ukraine. Marta did make some rather inappropriate comments, essentially saying that she wants to fight Belarusians and Russians. I do think we need to extend some grace to her though, as she is just 20 years old and it's definitely not easy for her, I'm sure, to deal with what she's going through. Meanwhile, in this same section, Karolina Pliskova and Belinda Bencic are on course to meet, which should be a very entertaining affair. Belinda, by the way, came back from 6-3, 5-3 down to take out Sorana Cirstea. Another woman who battled back from the brink of defeat was Aryna Sabalenka, who came back from 6-2, 5-1 down against Kai Kanepi to come out on top in 3 sets. This is a very good win for Aryna for obvious reasons, but it was good that she was able to get revenge over Kaya after falling short to her in the Australian Open meeting earlier this year. This is a good chance for her to make the last 8 in New York once again, but Danielle Collins seems to have regained her form and will be a tough customer. Raducanu eliminator Elisa Cornet won't be an easy out either. On the men's side, there have been quite a few upsets, including 4th seed Stefanos Tsitsipas and 10th Taylor Fritz falling in round 1. Felix Auger-Aliassime did fall to Jack Draper in the 2nd round, but that wasn't a huge upset as Draper's been quickly climbing up the ranks. 8th seed Hubie Hurkacz also lost in the 2nd round, but the Polishman typically underperforms in slams, so that's not a big shock. Daniil Medvedev and Nick Kyrgios are still on course to meet in the 4th round, which really could be the finals. Andy Murray and Matteo Berrettini play in the 3rd round, which will definitely be the match of the day. The winner of that will be happy with their draw, as they wouldn't have to play a seed in round 4. Casper Ruud and Tommy Paul also have an opening there, as the seeds in that section are also out. Italians Lorenzo Musetti and Yannick Sinner are likely to face off against one another in the round of 16. Meanwhile, Carlos Alcaraz has moved through comfortably thus far, but gets a tricky 3rd round opponent in American Jenson Brooksby. Cilic and Evans face off as well. Another Brit, Cam Norrie, headlines the lone all-seeded section remaining alongside Holger Rune, Denis Shapovalov, and Andrei Rublev. Then lastly, there's Rafael Nadal, who's had really poor starts his first 2 matches, and he looks to beat Richard Gasquet for the 18th time in a row. Nadal did hit himself in the nose during that match with Fognini, by the way, but it appears to be just fine. Then Francis Tiafoe still hasn't dropped a set and has a very good shot against 14th seed Diego Schwartzman. That's it for this video, and let me know in the comments what you think about the arena's doubles as well as Coco's and Jessica's. Plus, what are your top juicy 3rd round matches to watch? Also, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today.